Hello, this is Commando E and welcome to another fully narrated gameplay. In this game we're playing Garen in the top lane against Jax. As a result of recent changes to the game during this season, AD carries are no longer necessary in the bottom lane, and that is why the blue team has a Heimerdinger and Nami as their bottom lane. Outside of that, this is just your average ranked game in mid-platinum elo. To beat Jax in the laning phase at level 1, the first thing that I have to do is draw out his counter-strike, and then I can chase him down with decisive strikes and auto attacks to harass him. I must avoid him at all times that he has the Conqueror Keystone ready to go, as he will destroy me. So I only go into attack him when Conqueror is not active. We continue to attack Jax when both Conqueror and Counter-Strike are on cooldown, and this allows us to wear him down while we rely on our passive to keep us healthy. Once he's low enough on health, the threat of Ignite keeps him zoned off the minions and we're able to farm up without allowing Jax to farm up on his own. This continues for quite a while until the minion wave slowly pushes towards Jax, and Jax is low but he's not low enough for us to tower dive him. I could go back to buy more items right now, but I want to go into the enemy jungle and see if I can catch the Hecarim farming at low HP. Seeing the enemy Hecarim low on health, we flash in with Ignite, Decisive Strike and Judgment trying to kill him, but he manages to get away. So now we go back to lane without Flash or Ignite, but we do manage to pick up our boost, which gives us access to Predator. We come back to lane and Jax is feeling cocky knowing that our Ignite and Flash are down while he still has his Flash. He walks up too close to us and we hit him with a Decisive Strike followed by Judgment, using Courage to absorb the damage that he deals back to us. He realizes he's made a mistake and tries to get away using his Flash, but it's no good as we activate Predator and overtake him, running him down and killing him. If Jax had waited to activate Conqueror before getting close to us, that trade could have gone very differently. We continue shoving the wave, drawing out Jax's teleport, and Jax teleports back into lane. Now I do plan to go back and buy some items, but before I do that, I'm going to attack Jax and lower his health, so that when I recall and come back to lane, he will be at much lower health. The idea here is that the Jax who just teleported back to lane is not going to go back to base just because he lost a large chunk of health. I mean, he just used teleport, right? It'd be an absolute waste if he went back right now. And so he will stay in lane with a chunk of his health missing, and when we get back to lane, it should make the laning phase that much easier. And this is the part where I make a mistake. Once I got back to lane, I was too eager to engage on Jax given that I had a higher health than he did, but I engaged on him without realizing that he had Conqueror ready to go. The moment Conqueror activates, he starts shredding my health bar and I'm forced to retreat, barely surviving the trade. Luckily for us, Jax is low on health as well and he decides to recall and head back to base. As for myself, instead of going back, I'm going to rely on my passive to help me heal up as I continue to farm the minion waves. With the minion wave shoved to Jax's turret, I could recall to buy some more items, but I'm not going to win this game by staying in lane all the time. I need to start roaming, and so I start heading towards the mid lane, activating Predator as I go for a gank on the enemy Zoe. The enemy Zoe was beating our Ziggs in the mid lane and was a level ahead of him. Zoe goes toward the topside river brush and a wild Garen appears. In response to our presence in the mid lane, the enemy Jax starts pushing the top lane hard and the minion wave comes back to our turret just as we head back to lane. We shove out the minion waves ourselves and then we recall to buy some more items. Since we are Predator Garen, the items that we're going to buy are longswords. This gives us much more damage and will turn us into an assassin. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, a fight breaks out between Ashe, Morgana, Heimerdinger, and Nami. It seems like our team is going to win, but the enemy Hecarim comes in from behind and turns the fight around, and eventually they get a kill on our Morgana. Morgana almost manages to take down the enemy Heimerdinger with her, but Heimer survives just barely. And as we're heading back towards our lane, elsewhere on the map, Xin Zhao ganks and kills the enemy Zoe in the mid lane. Our Ziggs took a lot of damage in that gank in the mid lane, but he did come out alive and he uses the last of his abilities to take down the enemy mid lane turret before the enemy Hecarim shows up and runs him down. From the top lane, we notice that the enemy Hecarim did not have blue buff when he killed Ziggs, and we also notice the enemy blue buff is up. It's very likely that Hecarim will go take his blue buff. And so I'm going to head into the enemy topside jungle to see if I can cash out the enemy Hecarim, but as I'm heading there, I notice the enemy top lane and mid lane are missing. We quickly realize that we're getting collapsed on and we must get out of here. We activate Predator and run away at high speed, getting hit with Zoe CC, but it's okay as we manage to get away anyway. As we head back to the top lane to face Jax, we engage on him with Judgment before he has a chance to prepare Conqueror. This draws out his counter-strike and we finish him off with an auto attack Q and R. Meanwhile in the bottom lane, our Xin Zhao is going for a gank on the enemy Heimerdinger and Nami. He was hoping that Morgana would shield him as he goes in, but unfortunately there is no Morgana shield, and so when Xin Zhao goes in, he gets blown up and dies. At this point, the flaming between our jungle and our bottom lane begins, but it's not like Morgana didn't shield him on purpose. Our Morgana was engaged in fierce combat with one of the enemy Heimerdinger's turrets when the enemy Zoe came in from behind and killed her. There wasn't a whole lot that she could do here. I'm in the top lane watching all of this unfold, realizing that I will be needed down there very soon. Seeing the enemy Zoe roam down towards the bottom lane, our Ziggs decides that he's going to roam as well. He heads down towards the bottom lane, throwing his abilities at the enemy Heimerdinger and Nami. Ziggs lands most of his abilities and almost kills the enemy Heimerdinger, but Heimer does manage to dodge Ziggs' last ability and gets away alive. Meanwhile, the laning phase continues as normal in the top lane, with Jax and I trading blows, wearing each other down. I'm careful to avoid engaging Jax whenever he has Conqueror ready to go. It looks like Jax was going to recall, so we clear out a control ward that Jax had placed in the top river brush and head towards the mid lane. I stop when I notice that Jax has not recalled. The enemy Jax had the river brush warded to protect himself in lane, and we expect that he will go back there to try and regain vision in that brush. As Jax goes to check out the brush, a wild Garen springs out of nowhere and kills him. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, our Ziggs and Morgana are teaming up, trying to take down the enemy Nami. Morgana lands her snare over the wall, and Ziggs comes flying over, throwing out his bombs, taking down the enemy Nami. 14 minutes into the game, we've got our Ghost Blade and Ninja Tabbies. 15 minutes into the game, our Morgana makes an aggressive play onto the enemy Heimerdinger, and Hecarim comes in and kills her. The fight continues with Heimerdinger and Nami pressuring Ashe under turret, and Ziggs is trying to make his way towards the bottom lane, but Zoe is keeping him out. While Ashe is trying to stay alive under turret, Hecarim comes in from behind and kills her. With our Ashe and Morgana dead, the enemy team takes our bottom lane turret, then heads towards the dragon. In the meantime, in the top lane, I was helping Xin Zhao secure the Rift Herald while Hecarim was ganking the bottom lane. As soon as we've got the Rift Herald, I start running towards the bottom side river as quickly as I can, where the enemy team is trying to run down our Ziggs. The enemy team does manage to get our Ziggs in the Dragon Pit, but in return we manage to take out the enemy Zoe and Hecarim. We run away from the enemy Heimerdinger and Nami as Xin Zhao comes down to engage in fierce combat with one of Heimer's turrets. By the time we get back to our lane, the enemy Jax has taken our top lane turret. We shove out the minion waves, recall to buy some more items, and we're going to head out onto the rift once again, but we're not going to go back to the top lane. Most of the team's gold is riding on us, and we need to make an impact in the mid lane and the bottom lane. We go into the enemy bottom side jungle when we see the enemy Heimerdinger some distance away from his turret. Under normal circumstances, Heimerdinger would be safe where he is, but this is a Predator Ghostblade Garen that moves really fast. We activate Predator, Ghostblade, and Decisive Strike, charging onto the enemy Heimerdinger and killing him before he has a chance to react. With the enemy Heimer dead, our team gets a dragon and a recall to base to buy some more items. After that, we're going to head out back to the top lane where the enemy Jax has pushed too far, tries to make his escape to the jungle where he gets caught and dies pointlessly. With the enemy Jax there, we're going to shove the minions in the top lane to apply pressure on the top side of the map. I could try to go for the turret, but I noticed the enemy Zoe is pushed up mid quite a bit, so I'm going to go in from behind and try to kill her. We managed to evade Zoe's bubble, hit her with a Decisive Strike, and spin on her for the kill. Our aggression in the mid lane has drawn the attention of the enemy Hecarim. We see the Predator sign on top of our heads, and this tells us that the enemy Hecarim is charging in and he's most likely going to kill our Ziggs. Thanks to the wards that we have in the enemy bottom side jungle, we know that's where Hecarim is coming from. The easiest path to our Ziggs is through the brush by the Raptor camp, which is why we're going to stand guard by that brush to act as a deterrent to a dive by the enemy Hecarim. It works, and Hecarim is forced to go around. With the enemy Zoe dead and the Jax in the top lane, we force down the second tier turret in the mid lane. We do die here, but I say it's worth it to crack open that second tier turret. Our Ziggs dies in the skirmish that follows, and Ashe and Morgana come in to turn things around, and we get a kill on the enemy Heimerdinger as well. With the second tier mid lane turret open, our next objective should be the second tier top lane turret or bottom lane turret. We are carrying most of our team's gold, and with us removed off the map, the enemy team goes more aggressive on the top side of the map. The enemy Jax shoves in the top lane while the enemy Hecarim goes into the top side jungle to support him. Our Xin Zhao, completely unaware of what is going on, blindly heads towards our topside jungle, taking the blast cone over the wall where he runs into the enemy Jax and Hecarim, who completely destroy him. With their work done, the enemy Jax and Hecarim take the blast cone over the wall and make their escape. The enemy Nami makes the mistake of choosing this time to go ward our topside jungle as her teammates are retreating from the topside jungle. She also doesn't realize that we have respawned. As Nami goes into the red team's topside jungle to secure vision, a wild Garen appears and kills her immediately. With the enemy Nami dead, we continue into the top side of the enemy jungle and notice that the enemy Zoe is overextended. We activate Predator, Ghostblade, and Decisive Strike and try to run down the enemy Zoe, but we get hit by her bubble and she manages to get away. I'm thinking that I could really use Edge of Night to overcome her bubble and kill her anyway. Our next priority objective for winning the game has not changed. We still need to get the second tier top turret or bottom lane turret. And so we head to the bottom lane to start pushing that wave. I expect that I will draw members of the enemy team, and sure enough the enemy Jax and Heimerdinger come in to fend me off. I hang around in the brush by Krugs to see if I can get a chance to kill one of them. Sure enough, Jax comes by to farm the Krugs, and we wait until his counter strike is down before going all in on him, and we almost kill him, but he barely manages to get away. With the enemy Jax forced to retreat, we can now push the bottom lane and push for this tier 2 turret. Unfortunately, at this time my team makes a very fatal mistake. I'm trying to apply map pressure by split pushing on the bottom lane, but my team counters my map pressure by coming towards me through the enemy jungle. And as they're heading towards me, our Xin Zhao tries to pick a fight with the enemy Hecarim, who's massively ahead, and that is a bad idea. Xin Zhao gets destroyed by everyone on the enemy team, and I rush in trying to salvage the play, and I get wiped out as well. Following this, the enemy Zhou and Hecarim run down the remaining members of my team, killing everyone except Ashe. And once again, my teammates are flaming one another, with Xin Zhao blaming Morgana for not shielding him on time, and Morgana blaming Xin Zhao for forcing a bad play. And as for myself, I think it was really stupid of me to go back into that fight, as there was no way that would have ended well for us. With most members of the red team wiped out, the blue team presses their numbers advantage, going to secure the Baron. The enemy Hecarim is spamming his team with pings to let them know that they should be assisting him with Baron and that he has Smite available. With most members of the enemy team distracted, we rush in there with Garen trying to kill the enemy Hecarim and burn his flash. As the enemy team retreats from the Baron pit, we then head over to the dragon to secure the dragon as well. The amazing play by Xin Zhao with the Baron pit has kept us in this game. After we get the dragon, I'm going to head down towards the bottom lane to clear some minions, then head back to base to buy a dead man's plate. Despite the fact that the enemy team lost Baron, they're not entirely discouraged. They shove up as a team towards our mid lane turret, where the enemy Zhou picks off our Morgana. I'm watching this unfold as I head towards the mid lane, and the enemy team is confident that we will not go on the offensive with our Morgana dead. This overconfidence leads to the enemy Zhou getting too close to our team, and I flash onto her using all of my abilities to kill her, and using courage to tank the incoming damage as I make my escape. The enemy Jax also died in this fight, so we now have a 5 versus 3 numbers advantage. We use the Baron empowered recall to head back to base, buy some more items, and charge back out onto the rift. Our next priority objective has not changed. We still need to take the remaining second tier outer turrets in the top and bottom lane. As my team is pushing the bottom lane, I head through the enemy jungle to come to the other side of the second tier turret, zoning off the enemy team from defending this turret. The enemy Heimerdinger gets too close to us, thinking that we will not engage on him because he's close to his base turret. Once he's close enough, we activate Ghostblade, Decisive Strike, and charge in there to attack the enemy Heimer. We manage to get through half of his health bar, and in the fight that follows, Ziggs finishes off the enemy Heimerdinger from a safe distance. Once again, we're activating Courage to reduce the amount of damage that we take, and this allows us to get away alive. And now we sit back and let our passive restore most of our health bar as our team pushes into the enemy team's base. With the enemy Heimerdinger dead, our team is able to take the base turret and the inhibitor. Our work is done in the bottom lane, and we should not be overstaying, so my team retreats back to base. Now that we've got super minions flowing into the bottom lane of the enemy base, our next priority objective should be to push the turrets in the top lane. I start heading towards the top side of the map, hoping that my team will follow, but my team wants to push the mid lane. While pushing the top lane would be the most optimal play that we can make right now, the correct play at any time is to always play around the team that you have. And so we head towards the mid lane, where our team is looking to make our final push into the enemy base. I signal my team to hold back, as I do not want to push into the enemy base while our Ashe is still in base. We would easily lose a 4 versus 5 fight right now. I decide to try a fake initiation to see if I can draw out some abilities. We activate Decisive Strike and charge past the enemy turret, and this draws out the Nami's ultimate. With the enemy Nami's ultimate down, they have less disengage to work with, and as our Ashe rejoins us, we push into the enemy base for the game-winning play. This game as a whole was a more difficult one, made more difficult by constant flaming between our jungler and our bottom lane. Our mid lane, bottom lane, and jungle were all struggling. It is nice to kill your lane opponent continuously, but killing your lane opponent over and over is not going to win you the game. As soon as I had a lead and some power, I started using that power across other parts of the map. We went after the enemy jungler inside his own jungle. We came down from the top lane to the mid lane multiple times, alleviating pressure on our Ziggs. We even came down to the bottom lane to go after the enemy Heimerdinger. Whenever we saw an opportunity, we used Garen's mobility in this build to take down squishy members of the enemy team. We were not always successful every time we roamed, but the important thing is that we tried. Had we stayed in the top lane obsessing over our KDA and CS, this would have turned into another one of those games where you win lane, lose the game, and blame it on your teammates. I'm fairly new to Garen and there were a lot of mistakes that were made, but hopefully you found some parts of this video useful. If you love these videos and want to see more, do hit the subscribe button and use the bell icon to be notified on when the next video comes out. If you want to improve your in-game decision making, take a look through the playlist on the left, and if you want to learn some League strategies, take a look through the playlist on the right. You can also follow on Twitter, and if you want to support this channel directly, do click on the Patreon link to support this channel.